Hello everyone, and welcome back to Narrative Equity. I'm MAHY-MA-SOMGA, and today I want to talk to you about a coin flip, okay? So, a man pulls out a quarter and he sets it on a corner in front of a gas station attendant and says, "Call it." The attendant doesn't know what he's calling it for. The man is just looking at him and he does not explain. He just says, "Call it." And the entire weight of that scene, the entire reason it's one of the most terrifying moments in cinema history. And it's not the coin, it's what the coin represents. The attendant doesn't know if he's about to win something or die, and neither does the man flipping it. That's what uncertainty actually feels like. It's not the not knowing, but it's the pretending that you were ever in control to begin with. And today we're going inside something that most of us spend our entire lives running from, uncertainty. What it actually is, why we are so catastrophically bad at handling it, and what a Cormac McCarthy novel from 2005 understood about the human mind that most psychology textbooks still have not caught up. So here's a concept I want you to hold for the next 15 minutes. It's called the narrative fallacy. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman wrote about it. The philosopher Nassim Taleb made it famous. The idea is simple and devastating. The human brain cannot tolerate randomness. We are meaning-making machines. We take a sequence of events, any sequence, no matter how chaotic, and we build a story out of it. It's a story with causes and effects, a story with logic, and a story where things happen for reasons. The problem is that most things don't happen for reasons. In life, like things, they just happen. Someone starts a company and it succeeds. We call them a visionary. But if someone starts the same company with the same idea at the same time and it fails, we call them naive or failure. The difference between the two usually is luck. It's usually a variable so small and so random, might be timing, that you could not have planned for it if you had tried. But we don't tell that story. We actually can't tell it because the story terrifies us. So we build a narrative instead. We find the cause, we identify the genius, and we draw the line between the decision and the outcome. And we call it wisdom in retrospect. Then we use that story to convince ourselves that if we make the right decisions, the smart decisions, we will be safe from randomness. But we won't. In 2007, the Coen brothers released a film that made audiences genuinely angry, if I may say that, for the only reason that he refused to lie to them. The film is No Country for Old Men. It follows three men moving through the same West Texas landscape in 1980. First there is Moss. He's a hunter. He's a man who trusts his own competence completely. What he does, he finds a briefcase. It's full of drug money. He finds it at the scene of a massacre. So he takes it, obviously. It seems like the right move for him because he's smart, he has resources, he's resourceful. The movie adds that he's a Vietnam veteran, so he knows how to survive. Then the second character we find is Anton Chigurh. He's played by Javier Bardem. He's probably one of the most evil bad guy in a movie, but if you look at him, he's not really a man. He's what happens when randomness takes a physical form and walks around in an haircut in a way. He operates on a philosophy so simple, like it's almost peaceful when you look at him. Everything that happens was always going to happen. Your choices led you here. The coin that he is flipping doesn't decide anything, it just reveals what was already true. And then the third character is Tommy Lee Jones as Sheriff Bell. So he's old, And he's deeply good in a way that good people are when they have seen too much. And he's the one that the title reference, No Country for Old Men. He's trying to find Moss before She-Hulk does. And he's trying to impose order in a situation that has no interest in order. So, just disclaimer now, I'm going to talk about the ending of the movie. So spoiler alert, if you have not watched the movie, and if you don't want to know what happened, just fast forward like 1 or 2 minutes. There we go. The film does not end the way you expect. Moss dies off screen. You don't see him dying. You don't see his death. It's not interesting for the purpose of the movie. The hero just stops existing. There is no confrontation between the sheriff and She-Hulk. So in a way, there's no resolution at all. Bell retires and he goes home. And he tells his wife about a dream he had. And the screen goes to black. Audiences in 2007 were furious. Where was the ending? They were looking for justice, and they were expecting that scene where the good man wins, but there is no such scene. That was always the point. And here's what I think Cormac McCarthy understood that we don't want to hear. We are not the protagonists of our own story in the way we think we are. We are more like Sheriff Bell. We are competent and well-intentioned. We are operating from a map that made sense once, chasing something that we cannot catch in a world that changed the rules without telling us. Moss is the version of us that believes in competence as a shield. If you look at Moss, he's good at what he does. He makes smart decisions. He adapts. And none of it matters because the thing pursuing him doesn't operate on the logic of cause and effect. It operates on the logic of you were always going to be here and the coin was always going to land this way. Now, I'm not saying that life is random and nothing matters and go home. That's not what McCarthy is saying either. What he's saying is more precise and more uncomfortable than nihilism. He's saying the story you tell yourself about why you are safe is the narrative that makes you feel like your intelligence and your effort and your strategy put you in control of outcomes. So that story is fiction. Might be useful fiction, yes. It might be a necessary fiction, of course, probably, but it is fiction. And when you mistake the fiction for reality, that means when you start believing that because you made the right move, you are entitled to the right outcome, when you become Moss, you are competent, but you are doomed. Because you are confused right up until the end about why your map stopped matching the territory. If we bring that closer to home and closer to narrative equity, because this is not just a film essay, obviously. Think about the last time something didn't go the way you planned. What did you do immediately after? Think about it. You built a story. You found the reason it failed. You identified the mistake, the variable you missed, the thing you will do differently next time. And that process felt like learning. It felt productive. It felt like turning a loss into a lesson. But here's what Daniel Kahneman will tell you, and what She-Hulk will tell you if he was the kind of person who gave advice, which he is not. Most of the time, you did not find a real reason. You find a reason, a plausible cause that your brain could attach to the effect. Something that made the randomness feel like information. And this is the narrative fallacy in action. And it runs everything. It runs how it runs how we hire a new employee. We find a story in someone's resume that explains why they will succeed. It runs how we invest our money. We find a pattern in the data that tells us which way the market is going. We also see it how we build companies. We find the framework, the strategy, the positioning, everything that explain why this time it will work. And sometimes it does work. And then we find a story that explains why we were right. And the story makes us more confident next time. And the confidence makes us less careful. And eventually, the thing we could not plan for arrives. And yes, we are Moss. Standing in a motel certain that we have thought of everything, but then we die. Most podcasts at this point will give you 5 steps to manage uncertainty, a way to feel like you have converted the discomfort into a tool, but I'm not going to do that. Because that will be, and you will appreciate the irony, a narrative fallacy about uncertainty. A story we tell ourselves so we don't have to actually sit with the thing. What I would give you is what Sheriff Bell gives you at the end of the film, which is this. He describes a dream, the dream he just had. He and his father are riding horses through a dark mountain pass in the cold. His father rides ahead, carrying fire in horn, an old way of carrying fire. The way people used to before matches, before lighters, before the illusion of control over combustion. And Bell knows that his father will ride on ahead and find a place in all that dark and cold and make a fire. And that Bell will get there, eventually, and be warm. That's it. That's the ending of the movie. A dream about following someone who has learned to carry fire through the dark without knowing what's ahead. That's an honest posture from McCarthy. It's his statement in a way about how to live with uncertainty. You don't conquer it or manage it. You find a way to carry something warm through it and keep moving toward where the light might be. The narrative equity version of this is simpler than any strategy I could give you, and that applies to anyone building something. The brand and the founders and the companies that survive randomness are not the ones who predicted it. They are the ones whose story was true enough and consistent enough that when the unexpected thing happened, they still knew who they were. The story was not a plan for what would happen. It was a fire they had been carrying long enough that it didn't go out in the wind. That's what a strong narrative does. It doesn't protect you from uncertainty. It gives you something to carry through. So the coin flip scene works because the attendant realizes mid-scene that he has been living under the assumption that his choices determined his safety, and the coin reveals that they never did. That revelation is not an invitation to despair. It's an invitation to stop spending your energy on the illusion of control and start spending it on what actually compounds through uncertainty. And what is that? It's the identity, not the strategy. It's the story you can still tell when the strategy fails. It's the fires that you are carrying. Moss lost because he trusted his competence more than he understood his situation. Sheriff Bell survived because he knew who he was, even when he could not win. So the question for you this week is not what's my plan for uncertainty, but it's what is the story I will still be able to tell about myself and my work if everything I plan stopped working tomorrow. So if you have a clear answer for that, where you are carrying fire, good for you, and keep it up. But if you don't have an answer, that's the work. That's worth sitting with. Thank you for listening. This was Narrative Equity. I'm MAHY-MA-SOMGA, and I will see you again next week. Ciao.